Hi, I'm Tom Stevenson and welcome to Microsoft Project, the course. This is video number 14, so if you've been following along, you kind of know how things work, but if not, if this is new to you, there should be a link to the file in the description down below. And if you like, you can follow along using the file that I'm using. And so we've shot 14 previous videos. This particular video, I'm going to be refocusing again on the updating and recovery process, but I also want to show you a 30,000 foot view of what's going on your projects and why you're doing this. So if you're new to Microsoft Project, go back to the earlier videos. I've got a listing of them down below in the description and you can work your way up. Or if you're just after specific stuff about updating, recovering, want a high level view of how Microsoft Project is looking at this and get a good sense of things, then just sit back and watch the video. Okay, so let's get started. By the way, a little about my background. I'm a professor of construction management. I've taught this to thousands of people. I've worked with many thousands of people in the construction industry. So I've learned a lot of things and tricks and tips with Microsoft Project. So hopefully I can help you learn too. Okay, so I've got this start point file that we worked on from scratch from video number 1. Again, you can download it from my Google Drive link that's listed below. And so you see that I've kind of color coded the summary tasks just so that they pop a little bit. And we're going to do an update and a recovery here. Now I've already saved this as a baseline schedule, like the file name. I haven't really set the baseline yet because I want to show you that. And I just used my file naming protocol. So 0 is just signifying this is the baseline. This is your job number, perhaps the 10th job of 2023, the name of your project. I'm calling this baseline, and this is the date, all right, that I've just set, or I'm about to set the baseline to. So first things first, if you're going to update your file, you have to set the baseline, because if you don't set the baseline when you update it, it won't know that you've changed things, so it won't show you a variance. The big purpose in updating is so that you can see, am I on track? How many days am I ahead, or how many days am I behind? And have a good knowledge base on that. So if you've developed this schedule and this is what you're happy with, this is the plan going forward. In construction, you know, you've sent it to the consultant, they've reviewed it, this is what you're saying is the plan, then that's great. All right, so we want to set the baseline. So we do that under the project tab, and we see where it says set baseline. Now we've been looking at the different screens. I'm currently in the entry screen. I'm going to click on the square icon box here, right there in the corner, right click, and I'm going to go to the variance screen. In the variance screen, you see that there is baseline start, baseline finish, 0, and finish variances. And it says NA here. Well, I want that to say these dates over here. So what it's going to do when I set the baseline, it's going to copy that and paste it here. It's going to copy that and paste it there. It's also going to, in the cost screen, so I click on the square icon box, go to the cost screen. It's also going to copy these costs over here, so that when costs change, you'll also see a variance. So I'm going to go back to my variance screen. I'm just getting used to flipping back and forth between the tables so you know where you're going. That's half the battle, as I like to say. And I'm going to go under the project tab. I'm going to go set baseline. Set baseline for the entire project. So the default works here. The default works, and I'm going to click OK. And now it just did that. All these dates are the same as here, and all those dates are the same as there. And that's great. So I at least now know I've set the baseline. You can tell because this has dates in it. You could also go back and it will tell you here, last saved on. And once you've set the baseline, you leave that alone. You don't need to reset that. Well, certain circumstances you do, but typically not, right? Because that's going to be, as we move forward on the project, what we always refer back to. Okay, so now let's say that I want to update this for maybe a month has gone by in this project, right? So maybe a month has gone by in this project, and this project's starting April 24th. So let's pretend a month's gone by. So I'm going to go to project tab. I'm going to go project information, and I'm going to go to where it says status date here. And so we're saying that it started on April 24th. And so I'm going to 1. So we got there 1, 2, 3. Oh, maybe we'll take it to a little bit further. So we'll take it to the 26th, just so we see a little bit more stuff here. All right, so I'm going to put it that we're pretending now today is May 26th, right? So we're pretending that today is May 26th, and we're going to update our schedule. Nothing happens, except you will notice over here it did put in the date here. The only reason I'm not using the date here, I find my version of Microsoft Project, it's a little quirky here, and sometimes it goes ahead a year for some reason. But you could probably on your version. But if you find it goes ahead a year, just stick with the way I showed you. Sometimes Microsoft Project can be a little quirky as I tell you these little shortcuts here. And so that's where I usually input it. All right. So I'd like to see the status date line, and I've done this in other videos. I've explained it, but I thought I would review it here again before I show you the 30,000 foot view. I'm going to go grid lines. I'm going to pull this down, click on status date, click solid line, click on red so that we can see it pop, and there is our status date. So we are now, I'm going to go to format, get my drawing tool out, an arrow. We're now going to update this from the start date backwards. So we're pretending it's now this status date. So we're pretending that we are May 26th, end of day, and we're looking back what's done on our project. And so we want to update that. Now, the best screen to do that is in the tracking screen. So you click the square icon box, right click, go to tracking. And this is where you can put your actual start and actual finish. Now, I generally like to put in the duration column so I can utilize it too. So I usually customize my screen, right click, click insert column, type D for duration. All right, so and then put in the duration, and there you go. There's all your dates. And so let's just say, for example, I knew that the permit, well, let's say that the permit took 2 days longer than we expected, right? So if I click on that to 22 days, it pushes that out. Okay, now I could have put in, I could have hovered over this. I would see my, I would generally see my dates when I hover over that. And it would, right now it says April 24th and May 24th. It would have said May 22nd before I added those 2 days to it, right? So I could have put in here, that it started on April 24th, right? That's the date. And then I could say that it finished on May, whatever it was that I said it was, right? So I could click that and that would put it in. But probably easier at this point, if I just adjusted that, just showing a little bit of a shortcut for updating it, easier would be if this is all that's changed, right? These activities, they're all that's changed. This particular one, this one's in the right location now. Then the easy thing to do is click on the square icon box, go up to the task tab and click mark on track, and it will mark everything up to date up to the status date. Right? So now that filled in all these dates. So that's a lot easier than going into each one. I just moved the one where I wanted it and what was going on, and then I just clicked the mark on track for the rest. Because you put a status date and you selected everything, it will only update what's to the left of the status date. It won't update anything to the right. So you're good as long as you put in that status date. That's why it's good to do that. You also, as I said, have to make sure you put the variance, like the baseline in so you can see the variances. Now, how do I see the variances? Well, 2 ways that I like to do it. I like to slide to the left, right click, switch to the tracking Gantt right over here. You just slide all the way to the left, right click your mouse, and it brings up the tracking Gantt, which if I click here and if I'm under the task tab, I can just go scroll to task. Or those of you that like to do 3 key shifts, Control Shift F5, so you can go Control Shift F5, and it will bring that up on your screen so that you can see it immediately, or you can click scroll to task, either way. So now I can see what is going on. And so what is going on is there's 2 bars now. There's a bottom bar, which is your baseline, and there's a top bar, which is what's changed. And if the blue is darkened, then that means that it is completed and up to date and completed. If the red has a little bit of a dark line, or it's completely red, then that means that that portion or all of the task has been done. In this case, it's that portion, right? These are a lighter red, and so they're not showing that they're updated yet. They're not done yet. Now, I don't see the status date line when I switch to the tracking Gantt, so I'd like to see it. I've already set it, so that's okay. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to right click, and I'm going to now that I'm going to right click this, I'm going to go to grid lines. I'm going to pull this down, and I'm going to click status date, and then I'm going to click solid line, and I'm going to put red as the color. I'm going to click OK, and see, now my bar shows up. Now if you did not set the baseline, it would not be showing you this variance here. On top of that, if I go over here, I click the square icon box and I go to variance, right? You wouldn't see anything. It would just say 0, and this would say NA. And so you wouldn't know what's changed, because all you've done at that point is you've changed the plan. You don't get to see the variance unless you set the baseline. And then everything you change, it's measuring against that baseline. That's your benchmark. So that's great. Now I'm going to rename this file. I'm going to go File, Save As. I'm going to put it in the same folder that I had it in, all right, and so that I created for this. And I'm going to call this 1, because it's the first update. And I'm going to say that this was for, what was that, April 24th, I think I made the status date. So you put the status date in, all right, and I'm going to call this not baseline, I'm going to call this update. So I'm going to call this update. So it's the first update of job 1023 classroom remodel, right? April 24th, 2023. I put the number there because these numbers are going to nicely list in your folder. So that if your project's like 30 months long, they will be all listed in order. And if you need to go back to a specific period, it's very easy to locate it. So I'm going to go save. And so that is the update complete. The next thing that we do is we do a recovery. And so the recovery is that we're looking forward. So I'm going to use that drawing tool in this screen now and just draw the arrow this way. So we're looking forward. And we're using what I call the direct method to recover the time. I've talked about this in another video. I'll give a quick summary in this one, and I'm going to jump into the 30,000 foot view of what we're doing. But I thought this was a good time to recap on some of these things that we've been building on. And I know it's hard to remember all of this stuff unless you're doing it all the time. So repetition really helps when you're using Microsoft Project, and then making sure that what you're repeating works, right? Like you want it to work. So I'm going to look along this. And again, in the variance screen, I like to insert the duration column as well. Duration column can be your friend here. So I type D for duration, right clicked, insert column. And now I've got all of my durations there, right? So yeah, all I did was I right clicked and I went insert column and typed D, looked up duration, put it in. And so now I'm looking, where can I save this 2 days? 2 days isn't too hard to save the time, but using the direct method, I got to look along the critical path. Like I'm not going to save any time shortening blue items. I've got to shorten red items. And I may, when I shorten a red item, make something else that's blue become red. That's possible. So I got to be observant of what's going on. All right, so I've got set up trailer, temporary washroom. I'm just looking at this. Well, why do I need to have that? Why don't I do the washroom and the trailer at the same time? Well, it doesn't really make sense to me the way I've got that set up, so that's good. I can easily bring that one back. Now, I could change this in a number of ways. I could change the relationship here. So I've got a finish to start. Maybe that's a good little review for you. So I double clicked on the arrow link line here. I could have just as easily have double clicked on temporary washroom and bring up the whole properties box. But I double clicked on the link line. It's a little bit of a shortcut. I could put start to start, and I could click OK and see how it pulled that back. It pulled that back right here to start after that. So when this starts, this is also going to start. I'm going to have them set up to come at the same time. From that perspective, maybe I want to do those two things at the same time, so I'm just going to set it up that way. I should also close off this link here, though. Now I've kind of opened that up, so I should link that to something. Maybe I should link that to a successor tab, like install, let's see, which one is that? Install metal studs, okay? So if I want to link that one up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my entry screen. I'm going to look at my predecessors over here. Okay, so I'm going to look at my predecessors over here. And I'm going to take a good look over here. So I see my predecessors, install metal studs. And I'm going to link that because I should push it a little bit. Actually, this is going to push it a little bit more forward because do I need, yes, I want the trailer there before the install metal studs. So it's still going to give me a 1 day delay. So I'm still going to have to do something else for the 1 day delay. So I'm going to go install metal studs, comma, oops, and then I'm going to put the number 8, 8,9, and I put that there. So now that did delay me 1 day doing that, because it makes sense how I want to link that. I want to have my trailer and everything set up so that when we start, we've got that. And so now I'm delayed 1 day. So that saved me a day moving that back. That's fine. And so the next one I can look at is here, rough in electrical. I'll show you a different way. I could double click on this link lang and put a negative lag of 1 day, or I could double click here. So this is the other way that you can do this. And go to predecessors and you can say -1 day. And so if I do that -1 day, this should be showing that things are back on track over here. And they are. So for the rest of the project, I can see how the bottom bar and the top bar line up, and that's putting us back on track, right? So that just set us up, and now we're back on track with that. Okay, so that's great. We've got that all set up. We got that structured that way. We're back on track. We did our recovery. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go File, Save As. I'm going to go back into that same folder. And I'm going to keep all this the same, except I'm going to call this Recovery. And so that's number 1, you know, the numbering, job 1023, classroom, recovery. So then I would do the same thing. You know, however frequently you're updating your schedule formally, I would do this file naming protocol, right? And I would, that way I'm storing all of the updates, all of the recoveries. I can go to the variance screen. I can see what's been happening. I can see we're back on track. I can look at this project summary task. I can see where it goes. And I got into more detail in the other videos about putting notes so you know why it was delayed. Put notes so that you can document what you double click, you go to notes, you can type in what happened to this particular activity, why was it delayed. And then on the recovery part, you can put notes to say what you're going to do to make the recovery work. So fundamentally, that was the quick review that I wanted to show you regarding the updates and the recoveries before I jump in to show you the 30,000 foot view. But really important, and I'm going to stress it again, just like I stress, you know, making sure you've got no open ends and all of those other things. If you want to update your schedule, make sure that you've set the baseline. Otherwise, you'll only see 1 bar here. You won't see 2 bars when you go into tracking Gantt, right? And you won't see any variances. This is great because now I know what I got to look at. I've got a process using the direct method. I look along the critical path. I look sooner rather than later. You saw how I tried to fix it fairly quickly. I didn't try to fix it way down at the end of the project. I look for the no or low cost solution. What's the least costly way of getting this project back on schedule, right? So I look at detect along the critical path. I look more immediate. I try to reduce or have no costs involved. See, DIR. I experiment. That's the E, indirect. I get commitments of people that I'm changing this for. That's the C, indirect. And then the T is, this is going to help the team because you're going to have success after success after success using this methodology, especially if you adopt a lot of lean methodology principles and couple it with that. It'll be very helpful for you. So I do want to take that 30,000 foot view fairly quickly now. So we'll switch our screens and I'll just pause for a second. Okay, we're back. Anatomy of a recovery, the direct method. So this is that 6 steps. Detect along the critical path, look for immediate savings, reduce or eliminate costs, experiment. That's what this Microsoft project is fantastic for, experimenting. Ask yourself questions. Will this work? Will that work? Talk to the trades. Talk to the people involved in the work, suppliers, vendors. Get their commitment. Without their commitment, you're just playing around on the schedule. You got to make sure people are willing to do what you're saying you want them to do. And then this is going to help have a positive, proactive team. So what are we really doing here, right? What are we doing? Because I find that students get lost in Microsoft projects sometimes with the updating and they're not visualizing what's happening. So let's take a 30,000 foot view here. 30,000 foot view. I was watching this documentary one time on wayfinding, and I found it fascinating. It was basically the ancient Polynesians, how they populated the islands in the Pacific Ocean. And they didn't have compasses, they didn't have GPS for sure. They had to build these sailboats, and they had to provide the provisions, and then they would be able to set sail. And by reading the stars, understanding the currents, being able to dead reckon based on other kind of areas and islands that they saw, they were able to position themselves and find certain islands and then go back home and come back to the same island. You know, you're talking about thousands of miles of ocean, and to be able to do that on a consistent basis and survive, that's quite the chore. In a way, I thought this is a lot like what we do in project management on a high level. So what were we just doing with these updates? Well, the wayfinders, they have their home island, right? There's the destination island, where they want to go to. You have your project, you have a vision, you build a mental model about the project, you have your drawings, your specifications, you develop a plan for how you're going to get there. The wayfinders develop a plan for how they're going to get there. You have your drawings, those specifications. You should be visualizing what the finished building looks like. They're visualizing arriving at the island, right? So what does this finished house look like from the drawings? Developing the plan. And you know what? They set sail and nothing ever goes the way you planned, right? Nothing ever goes. So however good your baseline is, it's going to change. That's fine, right? But it's a measure for us. It's a motivational tool. We have milestones to help us motivate as well. But you set off and you go off course, and you got to figure out where you are. Now in construction, we have short-term schedules, and that gives us a continuous feedback loop as we're moving along. But we do an update. And this should tell us where we are in the ocean or where we are on the project. What's complete? That's what we just did with that update. We figured out we were 2 days late. Well, how do we get back on track? We used the direct method. We detected along the critical path. We looked sooner rather than later. We looked for the no-cost solution. We experimented, got commitments, right? Got the team working together. That's great. So now we've got a recovery. That's the recovery. Well, you know what? Then something else happens, throws us off course. We've got to figure out where are we, do our update, figure out how can we recover the time, do our recovery. And this continues many, many times throughout the project. It's called iterations, and you're adjusting and you're tweaking. And if you do it well, you don't go too far off course and you reach your destination. And you can explain also the reasons why you were thrown off course. Some are your fault. Some might be the client's fault or the consultant's fault, but you have it well documented. If you don't do that, you kind of set up a plan and you're not updating it and you don't have a baseline set. You're kind of like the Titanic. You're in the different ocean, but you hit an iceberg and the project sinks. Not really great stuff. Not really great stuff here. So when we're doing all these updates and recoveries, this is what's going on in Microsoft Project. And it's a tool to help you do that. And so if you use it really well, then that's going to help you lead to success in project management. Now also, all these tools and mechanisms and methodologies and pathways that we use in construction projects, technological advances, they should be helping us to reduce variation. So variation is how far off course we go. And the less off course we go, the better. So strong technological tools that improve our ability to predict where we're going and improve reliability of the system, that's going to make us better at what we do. And Microsoft Project is an excellent tool. Scheduling tools are excellent for helping you do that. And different methodologies, as I said. So if a tool, new tool or innovation or equipment is actually making you have wider variation, you got to really question the validity of it. The best ones are ones that are helping you to reduce. The best methodologies, the best systems, the best practices are helping you to reduce variation so you can improve reliability and predictability. So that's what I wanted to cover today as a recap on this Microsoft Project, the course video number 14. If you enjoyed this, please click subscribe, click notifications so you can see new videos up. Check my playlist. I have a lot of construction related topics besides Microsoft Project on my channel. And click like, leave a comment, and we'll see you next time. I'm Tom Stevenson, wishing you a great day. Bye for now.